The rain had already begun its soft tapping against the old stone terrace by the time I stumbled back into our flat on Rue des Carmes in Lyon, the bitter taste of Beaujolais still clinging to my tongue. The city lights shimmered through the drizzle, blurring the orange glow of the street lamps into long strokes across the windows. Lyon was always beautiful in the rain. Melancholic, honest, exposing cracks in its facades the same way alcohol exposed the cracks in me. I hadn't meant to drink that much. I hadn't meant to speak at all. But the words I'd buried under years of politeness, compromise, and careful silence had spilled out of me like loosened stones tumbling down a hillside, uncontrolled, unstoppable. And Adrian had listened. That was the part that frightened me most. He sat at the kitchen table, still in his suit from the architectural firm, the top button undone, dark hair slightly mussed. The overhead lamp cast a warm but unforgiving glow across his face, illuminating every reaction, every flicker in his slate blue eyes as I unraveled everything. My resentment, my exhaustion, my quiet hatred of the life we'd built. No, the life he built, expecting me to be grateful for the privilege of being included. His response hadn't been anger. It had been worse. It had been calm. Too calm. "Go to sleep, Elise," he'd said in a voice so soft it chilled me. "We'll talk in the morning." But morning arrived, and he did not wake me. Instead, he left nothing but a note on the dining table. Asterisk, I heard you. And I think now I finally understand what must be done. Those 12 words hollowed out my lungs. And then he vanished. Not immediately, not in the dramatic way one expects abandonment. No. Adrien was methodical, measured. First came the shift in his schedule. Earlier mornings at the firm, late nights justified by deadlines, working weekends. He was distant, yet perfectly civil, polite to the point of cruelty. Then came the bank notices, unfamiliar financial transfers, the lawyer's name I didn't recognize, a reshuffling of assets I had assumed were jointly controlled. Then, one cold March morning, a year after the drunken confession that unraveled everything, he disappeared entirely. No forwarding address, no phone call, no explanation, only silence. And in France, where neighbors politely pretend not to notice personal misfortunes, the silence becomes a second form of judgment. But disappearance alone wasn't his revenge. His true vengeance unfolded slowly, like an old cathedral revealing its architectural flaws only after decades of pressure. I lost access to accounts, our accounts, ones he'd secretly restructured under the guise of managing finances. I lost my place in the cultural foundation I had helped him build. Apparently, I was no longer suitable for the board. Friends who had once embraced me with double kisses on the cheek now turned away. He had dismantled my life without ever raising his voice. At first, I told myself I deserved it. I had been cruel that night. I had said terrible things, fueled by years of feeling unseen, unheard. But guilt eventually turned into clarity. What kind of man weaponizes his own wife's vulnerability this way? What kind of man waits until she is most broken to strike? A man crafted by secrets, by family legacy, by generational pride, stitched into every decision he made. I learned the truth one humid July afternoon when I returned to the countryside house in Beaujolais, where his mother still lived. The old stone mass was perched on a hill, surrounded by vineyards that stretched into the horizon like neatly combed green waves. The cicadas were loud, louder than my footsteps, louder even than the storm beginning to form behind the hills. His mother, Madeline, greeted me with cool politeness. "Elise, I didn't expect you. Adrian is not here." "He's not anywhere," I said. "And I think you know something." She studied me with those sharp eyes shaped by decades of Lyonnais social wars. Parties, alliances, marriages that served as currency. She turned away toward the wide glass doors overlooking the vines. "You hurt him," she said, "more deeply than you know." I told the truth. Sometimes truth is an act of violence. And sometimes silence is one, I countered. A faint smile tugged at her lips, the kind that held both approval and disdain. She finally sat, folding her slender hands in her lap. "Do you know why Adrian fears emotional chaos? Why control is everything to him?" I shook my head. He grew up watching his father destroy this family with impulsive decisions, affairs, failures he refused to admit. Adrian rebuilt everything after his father's death. Every brick, every euro, every reputation. He thought stability was love, that providing was love, that predictability was love. And then you told him it wasn't enough. I swallowed hard. He didn't disappear because he was hurt. He disappeared to punish me. Madeline didn't deny it. "Pain makes us revert to the people we fear we once were," she said. "What does he want from me? What could justify all of this?" "A choice," she said simply. "The same one his father never made." I stared at her, thunder rumbling across the hills. "Where is he?" She hesitated, an uncharacteristic crack in the polished exterior. Then she exhaled sharply. "He's in Annecy." Annecy. The postcard-perfect town nestled against turquoise waters and snow-dusted peaks. A place we once visited in the early years of our marriage, back when things were still soft and new. A place of beginnings. A place he'd returned to for endings. The train ride was a gray blur of small stations, wet fields, and my own spiraling thoughts. When I stepped off into the crisp mountain air, the scent of pine and lake water sent a strange ache through me, as if I were stepping back into a memory I had tried to forget. I found him sitting near the Pont des Amours, staring across the canal that glowed pale emerald under the afternoon light. His posture was rigid, hands resting on his knees, suit jacket despite the mountain breeze. He didn't turn when I approached. "You found me," he said quietly. "You wanted me to," I replied. He finally faced me. Adrian's eyes were tired in a way I had never seen. Not angry, not cold, just emptied out. "You told me," he began, "that you felt trapped, that our life was built on decisions you never got to make, that everything I thought I gave you was a burden to you." That night, I was drunk. "You were honest," he said sharply. "That was the point. Alcohol had only loosened what you kept hidden. And you chose revenge." He didn't react immediately. His jaw flexed once, a tiny betrayal of emotion. "I didn't want revenge," he said. "I wanted distance, clarity. I wanted to understand how I could love you so completely and still be the villain in your story." "You're not the villain," I said. "Not until you destroyed everything around me. You told me you wanted out. I wanted to be heard." Thunder cracked far in the distance, echoing across the lake. The wind shifted, lifting strands of hair across my face. Adrienne stood, stepping closer, the faint scent of cedar and bergamot filling the narrow space between us. I grew up believing love was a responsibility, he said. Something to maintain, to protect, to control so it couldn't collapse. I didn't know how to love without holding everything too tightly. You froze me out, I whispered. I knew if I spoke, I would break. I knew if I stayed near you, I would beg you to stay. And that felt pathetic. And disappearing felt better? I asked. It felt safer. For whom? My voice trembled. For you or for me? He didn't answer. Silence stretched between us, long and fragile, like the reflection on the lake. Finally, he spoke. My father didn't choose my mother. He let his pride choose for him. I thought I would know better. But I listened to your words and realized I'd become him, the man who believed love was something owed, something to be managed. I didn't want to trap you the way he trapped her. You didn't trap me, I said. You abandoned me. He flinched. Then tell me what to do now, he said hoarsely. Tell me what ending you came here for. Revenge, closure, another beginning, a final cut. All of them hovered on my tongue. But the truth, the real truth, rose slowly from the place inside me I had refused to look at. I don't want revenge anymore, I said. I want accountability. From both of us. His breath hitched softly. I hurt you, I continued. I said things I never should have said. And your silence was violence in its own way. But I'm done letting pain make choices for me. And what choice are you making now? He whispered. I stepped closer, close enough to see the faint tremor in his hands. That we face the truth together, not as the people we pretended to be, not as the roles our families carved for us, but as two flawed, damaged humans who either rebuild honestly or walk away for good. The storm finally broke, raindrops scattering across the canal, tapping softly against the metal railing. Adrian closed his eyes as the rain touched his face, as if letting something inside him finally crack open. Elise, he said, my name sounding like both an apology and a plea. We go back to Lyon, I said. We talk, we unravel everything, and then we decide if there's something left to save. And if there is, he asked, then we rebuild from truth, not illusion. And if there isn't? I held his gaze, the lake wind shivering between us. Then we end it with honesty, no more disappearing. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he reached for my hand. Hesitating, waiting, offering rather than taking. I let him. Not because forgiveness was easy, not because the wounds had healed, but because revenge would have kept us chained to the versions of ourselves we feared most. And I was ready, finally, to choose something else. Whether it was a new beginning or a graceful ending, I didn't yet know. But for the first time in years, the future felt like a door I could open myself.